Mary LaHammer here from Twin Cities PBS on the new sustained pressure on the governor to call a special session. What is new is the scale and the time frame of this effort. This is 700 members of the clergy from over 60 counties in Minnesota daily now coming to the Capitol for a prayer vigil at noon and also dropping off a petition to the governor demanding he call a special session. And specifically what they want a ban on assault rifles and high-capacity magazines, something that we don't know that there is even bipartisan support for. It's not a given that there are the Democratic votes, and so far we're hearing very likely not the Republican votes. Remember, very closely divided House and Senate there, and the power lever, again, governor is the only person that can call a special session, and the legislature's the only people who can decide what to do in that special session, and they could just immediately go home. The governor does not set the agenda. There's always been pre-agreement, and today the governor talked about the fact there's always pre-agreement, and I challenged him in the press conference to say, well, you've always had pre-agreement, but we have seen other governors call lawmakers back into special session and try and force them to act. Now, it generally has not worked because, again, they can just adjourn right away and go home. That is their prerogative, but it is a lever he has, and he originally kind of toyed with it and said, I'm calling a special session, and now he's entering the reality of negotiations and bipartisan and long drawn out, well over a month since the Annunciation school shooting. The governor also said today that he is going to be doing town halls. So if the legislature is not going to be in session, he said he'll have sessions out in the community with clergy, with parents, with lawmakers to try and really force this issue. So more pressure, sustained pressure, daily pressure. That's new. You know, in the news business, we always say the first three letters of news are NEW, new. And so this daily pressure is new. Also, some of the community activism is new and interesting. You'll see in my piece here in a moment that we show you an event in Stillwater. Stillwater's very interesting. It's one of those incredibly competitive suburbs. Their legislative delegation is divided between Democrats and Republicans, and specific pressure is put on Republican Senator Karen Housley. She was specifically called out in this. So again, that's some of the setup, some of the new pressure. The reason we did this story is what is new in this push to address gun violence after a school shooting. So let's take a look at the story. Clergy are coming to the Capitol, delivering a letter to the governor calling for a ban on assault rifles and high-capacity magazines.
This is not just a policy failure, it is a failure of moral imagination.
Amen. Yes. 700 clergy telling us to have a vote on this. I mean, it's the public's going to ask. It's overwhelmingly popular. I think the recent polling showed it at like 58%. People want to do that. But don't get this very clear. The Democrats may not have the votes. I don't know. But the Democrats are saying, we go into special session, we're going to vote on an assault weapon ban and high-capacity magazines. The Republicans are saying, we are never going to have a vote on high-capacity magazines. That's what they made clear, both in private and publicly.
Thank you for joining your prayers, your presence, and your courage to this shared work of faith and action.
7 days of prayer from 700 clergy from 64 counties, all signed the call to action.
My faith compels me to act. I have 2 kids in the Minneapolis public schools, and I drove by Sanford Middle School on my way to get here today and said a little prayer for my baby inside. I know she's safe there.
We promise that the governor, senators, and representatives will not stand alone.
What about your congregation and your community? Do they approve what could be looked at as political activism?
Yes, my congregation is a spiritually progressive, open and affirming congregation. Many in my church work for the government, and the United Church of Christ is a justice-centered denomination. I've had people in my congregation who have been laid off due to the current White House administration. I happen to have grown up with Mike Moisky, who is the father of Harper Moisky. We grew up together, went to school together, went to church together.
So far, the political divide has kept the governor from calling a special session because bills need bipartisan support to pass.
Our children await this state's answers. Mm-hmm. Yes.
Amen.
From the state capitol to out in the community, a variety of different groups are putting sustained political pressure on leaders.
Let's take a moment of silence to remember the lives of Harper and Fletcher, who died during their school mass at Annunciation Church and School on August 27th. And may we also hold in our hearts the 18 children and 3 adults who were wounded during the shooting.
In the political swing district of Stillwater, the Children's Defense Fund of Minnesota joined local officials.
We see all the hate and vitriol when anybody talks about gun control or trying to make a change. It's really hard for organizers, elected officials, I just have to say, to be up here to do this.
It's time to work together. It's time to make compromises. It's time for common sense gun laws. It's time to ban assault weapons and high-capacity magazines. The life you might save might be that of your child, your grandchild, or a child in your community.
Teachers and students say they're tired of active shooter drills.
I can protect them just a teeny bit longer and don't have to tell them why we're really hiding, why we're really protecting, what we're really practicing for. Sorry.
It feels like every week we're reading about another tragedy in a school just like mine. Being a freshman in high school is hard enough. Making new friends, the stress of schoolwork, worrying about what sports team I will make, getting my bus stop on time, and so much more. On top of that, why should I have to fear for my life every day at school?
And Moms Demand Action has continued a long push for more gun control.
Gun violence has now become the leading cause of death for children and teenagers, more than automobile accidents and cancer. Let that sink in.
We are called to act now, to protect our children from another mass shooting. We owe that to Fletcher, and we owe that to Harper. And we owe that to Lydia, Sophia, Pablo, Vivian, Victor, David, Estella, Astoria, and the many more children who were at Annunciation that day and who are grieving, healing, praying, and working hard to regain their childhoods. I want to tell them that our community and our state are going to do everything we can.
In the end, still, only the governor can call a special session.
I'm going to be at town halls with some of these folks, these parents, and with these clergy, and with doctors, and with others, and just saying. And again, I want to be very clear. I'm just asking you to state your opinion on this. If this is a bad idea, I respect the democracy.
It makes no sense to have military-grade assault weapons with high-capacity magazines as a part of our culture in the United States. It makes no sense that we can't pass reasonable legislation and policy around guns.
We just saw there the governor in his comments in his reception room talking about the new sustained pressure on addressing gun violence in special session. Ironically, that was not a news conference the governor called to get you a little inside baseball and take you in the room there. That was actually a press conference where the governor took off his sweatshirt and rolled up his t-shirt. You can see he was still wearing his t-shirt. That was because he was getting vaccinations, and he rolled up his sleeve and he was getting COVID and flu vaccine. And this is part of a new communication strategy from the governor and Democratic governors across the nation, pushing back and counteracting what they're hearing from the federal government. I asked the governor about that, if he was surprised to be in this position of daily kind of challenging and contradicting the federal government as he is the head of state government. And he, said this is his job, and he wants it clear that in Minnesota, you still can go to your pharmacy and get your vaccinations, that there is a lot of confusion out there. And he laid the blame at RFK Jr.'s feet and said, obviously, he is a vaccine skeptic or denier, depending on how you want to depict that. And he wanted the information out there. He had his health commissioner talking about the evidence, and he definitely referenced journals, medical journals, the Mayo Clinic, the world famous Mayo Clinic located in Minnesota, and saying all of these entities and all of the medical professionals are still recommending vaccinations. He also said he was disturbed to hear that in the state legislature that there was interest in no longer requiring childhood vaccinations for kids to go to school. Now, Democrats control the Senate, so there would not be the votes for that, and obviously the governor would not sign that. But just to give you some perspective of while he spent a good portion of his time in front of the press press having to address special session and gun violence issues. The reason he's wearing a white t-shirt under his blazer is because he had to wear a t-shirt and roll up his sleeve and get vaccinated with the First Lady right there, kind of leading by example, something that he did all the way back to COVID. And of course, it's not, uncontroversial. There are definitely people who worry about side effects and have concerns about vaccinations, but he addressed that too. So just some more inside baseball in our Substack here. Give us a subscribe, a follow, and give us feedback too. Let us know what you do and don't want to hear more of. Thanks.